Assami Kumari Public School and College, Khanewal. It's class 10th biology lecture. Chapter number 14, reproduction, and our today's topic is the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, let's start with the sexual reproduction. A mode of reproduction involves the fusion of haploid female gametes, the egg cells, and the haploid male gametes, the sperm cells. So both fusion is known as the sexual reproduction. And for this purpose, we are having here one term that is called the alternation of generation. What is alternation of generation? Yes. We have two generations in a life cycle of a plant. The first one is called the gametophyte generation. You can see here, this is the gametophyte generation. What it's meaning that the gametes formation. The male and female gametes formation generation is called the gametophyte generation. So one generation is gametophyte and the other is called the sporophyte. That is a different part of the plant, so sporophyte generation. So one plant is having one generation at a time that alternate with other generation at second time, that is the sporophyte generation. And the phenomena where gametophyte generation alternate with the sporophyte generation, this is called the alternation of generation. So this is a mechanism that you can see here in the plants, that is called the alternation of generation, where one generation alternates with the other. And these two generations are gametophyte generation and the sporophyte generation. Okay, what happened here, you can see class, these are the gametes, right? Gametes cells are here. You can see these two type of gamete cells or germline cells are also known, where fusion makes a zygote. Fine. When a zygote take place with the fusion of gametes, it in zygote always at fusion take place called the mitosis. That make a sporophyte generation, a new plant body, right? After that, its cells have meiosis. In meiosis, it makes haploid cells, right? In mitosis, you can see here the 2n. 2n is representing double number of chromosomes, diploid number of cells, right? That are present in the sporophyte generation. But when sporophyte is produced here, then it makes the spores with the help of a meiosis, and you can see here now it is having the haploid spores here. Okay, Nimra. Other participants, please tell me, am I audible to you? Can you listen me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Nimra, all can listen me except you. It means there is problem with your network. Do check it. Okay, so two generations, one is the gametophyte that produce the gametes, and the other is the sporophyte that produce the spores. And in spores, the mitosis take place, and in gametes, in the sporophyte, the meiosis produce the spores, right? So hence these two generations are alternating with each other in a plant life cycle, that is called the alternation of generation. So if here we see about the sexual reproduction involves in the production of gametes and their fusion, fertilization. Yes, the gametes fusion is called, which is making the zygote. Fusion is called the fertilization. Gametes are produced in special structure in plant body. The major plant groups are mosses, ferns, and seed plants. Most may bryophytes and other are the pteridophytes plants. The seed plants include gymnosperms and angiosperms. So this is the categories of plants. We have divided plants into these categories. The number one, moss plant, then fern plants, seedless seed plants, the angiosperms and gymnosperms. Those plants who are flowering here in our region, they are known as the angiospermy plants, and they are well developed plants, okay, that produce the flowers. Next, it is the plant group use different methods for bringing sperms and egg cells together. Yes, this fusion process, the fertilization process, is being done by the pollination. If you remember how the male gametes reach towards the female gametes, and their fusion is called the fertilization. It is different in different types of plants. Some plants are present in the moist region, some are present in the dry region, so their fertilization ways are also different over there. So I told you about the alternation of generation. Now I'm going to tell you about the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, this is a flowering plant. You can see here the structure of a flower. Okay, and here I'm going to elaborate its structure first. This is a diploid plant. Fine, this is a parent diploid plant. Flower is a reproductive part. You know that the leaves, the stem, the root are the vegetative parts, but the flower is always a reproductive part of the plant. Okay, and here we are going to discuss about it. The flower components are arranged in forms of whorls. You can see here first whorl, second whorl, and third whorl, fourth whorl, different time. First is this whorl, the outermost. If you ever observed any flower, you know that its outermost whorl is just of green color, the sepals. If just think about the rose, you can feel that there is the outermost whorl. Outermost layer is of these sepals, the green color parts, right? That gives the protection. This is the first whorl. The outer two whorls in flowers are the non-reproductive. Obviously, first is this sepal that are green in color. After that are the petals of the flower, right? These two whorls, number one and number two. These two whorls are non-reproductive. But number three, this whorl, the anther, and number four, this stigma. Number three and number four, these two are the reproductive whorls. So first two whorls are the non-reproductives, the sepals, and these purple color petals. But inside of it is the anther, and the inside the stigma. These two are the reproductive whorls. So let's see them one by one. Here you can see this is the sepal, and these are the petals. So these are the first word, right? First and second word. These are non-reproductive. But the third you can see here, this is one androecium, this is second androecium, male part, male reproductive part of a plant. And this central bottle-like structure is female reproductive part of the plant, right? So these inside two walls are the reproductive parts of the plant. Now we are going to see them one by one. Yes, if I take a close view of this gynoecium, the female reproductive part, its second name is the carpel. We call it the carpel as well. It's known as the gynoecium here, this one, right? On your book page number 79, it's described over there, but no need to see from there. Just see it from the screen that I am elaborating you people, that this bottle-like structure is called the gynoecium, which is a female reproductive part, and it is also known as the carpels. Its unit is called the carpels. Okay, if it's we see its structure in detail, then it is having its three parts. Number one, this broad part is called the stigma. Next to stigma is a tube-like structure that is called the style, right? This is the style part, this one. Next to style, this is the basal part, right? The base which is making the ovary part. You can see here, this is whole the ovary, and inside ovary we said that ovules, female reproductive cells. The ovules are produced here, right? These are the ovules. So hence you can say gynoecium is having one stigma part, style part, and the ovary. Inside of ovary, the ovules, which are female reproductive cells, produced here. Next to it is the androecium. This is this one part, the third one, right? This is also a reproductive part, but it is male reproductive part. If we see its close view here, yes, here we see its close view. You can see this part is called the anther part, and this whole region, it's called the anther part. It is having small grains in it, right? These small grains are called the pollen grains. These pollen grains are present in anther region, right? And it is making the microsporangia. Its name is microsporangia as well. Next to it is other part is the filament, that is stalk-like structure in it. This is called the filament. So it is having two structure, anther and filament. And in anther structure, you can see here the small grains like grain-like structures called the pollen grains, and they are present in the microsporangia. So this is whole structure of anther, and this is the whole structure of gynoecium carpels, right? And this is called the microsporangia, and this is called the megasporangium. So its name, just remember, gynoecium, carpel, megasporangium. These three terms used for this female part, and for this male part, androecium, stamen, and microsporangia. Its cells are microsporangia, its cells are the megasporangium. So needs to remember these terms very clearly, that what are the carpel, female part, stamen, male part, androecium is also known as the same, gynoecium is for female, and the rest is the structure of it. One thing, the first one I told you, the sepal, which always give protection to the plant. This is the first one, and the second was the petals. So sepal and petals are also having its two name. Corolla, composed of petals, means the petals are also called the corolla. Petals are the unit, and this whole, all the petals are called the corolla. Calyx was the outermost one, composed of sepals. So it means sepal, one sepal, two sepal, there can be 3, 4, 5 sepals, and these whole sepals are called the calyx. So outermost calyx, inside corolla, inside of corolla is this is the androecium, and this one is the gynoecium. So this is the structure. The structure is clear to you all? Tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I'm starting the next part. If these diagrams are clear to you, you can understand the next very easily. Okay, let me explain you about the androecium male reproductive part, right? This is the androecium male reproductive part. I'm going to describe about its anatomy. It is having stamen, produce filament, and anther. Is it so? It's having stamen. This is the stamen is having the anther and filament. Is it? I mentioned the same thing, filament and anther. Next is pollen sac produce the microspores through the meiosis. Inside of this, there is a microspore. The microsporangia is having these pollen grains or microspores. So you can say that the pollen sac produce microspores through a division. The cell divides, as they are the reproductive cells, and reproductive cells always divides through the meiosis process. Remember? So you can say that pollen sac reproduce microspores through the meiosis. Now what happened? Microspore nucleus. You can see here microspore nucleus. Okay, this microspore is germinated into a male gametophyte. And now what is male gametophyte having? This is all about the male part, and male gametophyte you can say, because it is gametes producing generation. So microspore, the male gametophyte has microspore nucleus that undergoes mitosis and form two nuclei. So the male part is having two nuclei here. Number one, tube nucleus. Number two, generative nucleus. Generative nucleus again divided by the process of mitosis and make two sperm cells here. So basically you can see that microspore or male gametophyte divide by the mitosis now, and having two structure in it. Number one is a tube nucleus, number two is the generative nucleus. But this generative nucleus has changed through the process of mitosis into two sperms. So one thing is now this tube nucleus here, and second thing is about the two sperms here. So totally these one and these two sperms, these things are present in the androecium male reproductive part. Is it clear? Yes, is it clear to you all?
Yes, miss.
Now I'm going to tell you about this part, gynoecium. This was androecium part. That is the stamen part, right? Having anther and filament. And next to it is what happened here. This is making the microspores, right? The microspores take place through the division known as the meiosis, and it has made one male gametophyte generation. And male gametophyte has the microspore nucleus that is having mitosis in it, making tube nucleus and two sperm cells, right? So this is overall the structure. If you remember this part that I described here, the tube nucleus and the two sperms, then you may be able to understand the next term that I will describe here, the fertilization and the double fertilization. For that purpose, please remember these things. Next it is the gynoecium, that is a female part. Next it is the gynoecium part. Now I'm going to describe it with the help of this picture. Gynoecium, female reproductive part, it is having the carpal ovary style stigma. Yes, I can show you the ovary, the style, the stigma, three parts are present here in the carpal region. Haploid macrospore produced through the meiosis, same as the pollen grains were produced there. Here, these haploid megaspore is produced through the process of meiosis, right? These ovules you can see. Next to it is now we are having one female gametophyte. This female gametophyte's macrospores undergo mitosis and produce one egg cells and two fission nucleus. So it is having one egg cells, and number two, it is having the fission nucleus. So two structures are here and two structures are here in the androecium part, the tube nucleus and the two sperms. Is it clear to you all?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next what happened, that is the process of the pollination. Now what is pollination, class? Pollination is the movement of, you can say, the transfer of pollen grains. These are the pollen grains, right? Here you can see these are the pollen grains. When the pollen grains mature, they transfer their transfer their pollen grains from anther to the stigma on this part. Now these pollen grains, and what the pollen grains are having, what is the structure that it have? Yes, the pollen grain have one tube nucleus and two sperm cells, right? It's mean that the transfer of pollen grains from the anther towards stigma is called the pollination. Now you have seen this transformation, the movement of pollen grains towards the stigma.
Yes.
Yes, this is a stigma. It's called the pollination. Now what happened next to the pollination? Next to the pollination is that I told you here were the, if we talk about this anther, it is having two structure. Remember, tube nucleus and two sperm cells. What is the function of these two things? Now what are they going to do here? Yes. As these pollen grains reach here, they needs to be reached at this point. For going towards this point, they needs to make one tube here, right? They will make one tube here, tube-like structure. And for that purpose, it is having the tube nucleus, right? On reaching the stigma, the tube nucleus of pollen grains construct a pollen tube. It means it was having one tube nucleus, which make one tube here. That is called the pollen tube. So pollen tubes helps microspores to reach towards the megaspores. Okay. So when these pollen tubes helps to meet these pollen grains with these ovules or egg cells, this meeting of pollen grains with the egg cells is called the fertilization. Now clear?
Yes.
Is it clear to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Fertilization.
Yes, ma'am.
Fission of gametes. Here are the gametes, the egg cells are the gametes, right? These are the gametes. When these pollen grains comes and make a pollen tube here, because they are having one tube nucleus, right? Tube nucleus make one pollen tube here, and that pollen tubes helps the pollen grains to reach towards the ovule, and here they get fused with each other. This fusion is called the fertilization. It's all about our today's lecture. If you are having any query, please tell me.